and welcome to Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, Vanessa Rose. Thank you so much for tuning in to join us for another great edition today. Today we are joined by Jerry Castro, and he is the food services manager at a great nonprofit organization here, St. Vincent's DePaul. Thank you so much for joining us.
Vanessa, thank you for the invitation.
Yes, it's wonderful to have you. I know that anyone that's been here for any extended amount of time has seen either one of your facilities or one of your trucks or a thrift store or something. There's so many things that you're involved with here in the community, and it's so wonderful to have you to share a little bit of your expertise here today about homelessness and what our homeless community is facing. But before we get started, if you wouldn't mind just sharing for a minute about yourself and what brought you here today.
Well, you know, the big lesson is that the Society of St. Vincent de Paul, I've been volunteering for 30 years with the Society, and 16 years ago I started working for the Society of St. Vincent de Paul, and I just see all the beautiful things that our volunteers, our society does to serve those that are in need, our homeless community, working poor families, the elderly, and those that are with medical needs that are in need, that our medical dental clinic does, and it has been something that has just, you can't, I can't even imagine all the great work that has taken place through the wonderful work of our volunteers.
Yes, and they do. There's just quickly, St. Vincent de Paul works. You have a lot of different areas that you cover. It's not just feeding people, but you cover a lot of different areas. Could you just tell us for a moment some of those different areas?
Yeah, so we have our transitional shelter, Ozana Manor, which is housing of 49 men and women, and then we have our medical dental clinic that is free of cost to the working poor. And we also have our ministry to the homeless, where we actually have our guests come in for showers, clothing, and our food reclamation. One of the departments that I manage is our food reclamation, where we're actually doing close to, I'd say, 10 million meals in food boxes, which is about 480,000 food boxes to families that call looking for help. And at the same time, there's our volunteers that go out and they've assisted with the rent, utility, many different types of aid that a family would have a need for. Also, we have our central kitchen that's preparing meals for our 5 dining rooms. And the 5 dining rooms, we have wonderful volunteers. Each day, over 120 volunteers volunteering in our dining rooms. And that is just amazing. That's each and every day. We're doing 7 meals Monday through Thursday, 8 meals on Friday, and then on weekends, we're serving 4 meals at 3 locations. And so it's, again, all volunteer driven. They allow us to do all this great work in serving our homeless community, the working poor families that would come to our dining rooms. And then we also have 32 other meals that we provide through our central kitchen to nonprofit agencies. And so we're just blessed to be able to also support our community. And there's a couple agencies that have maybe multiple sites. So it's one agency, but there's 5 locations that we're assisting. As long as they're a 501c3, we've been able to assist others.
So St. Vincent de Paul, in a way, almost acts as a food bank. You actually are giving food and resources to other nonprofits who may not have access to them.
Through our central kitchen, yes. Through our central kitchen, we actually are providing hot meals. Through our food box program, it is set up to help our 89 parish-based conferences, because they go out on home visits. As Jesus taught us, going out in twos, we promote home visits, always 2 persons, and they're the ones that take these food boxes out to families looking for help. So one thing I've always learned, that if Jesus were to ask you for help, you know, he said, oh yeah, come over here, and once you get to me, I'll help you. No, it's us going to where Jesus lives, seeing what else he needs besides the food. And that's the blessing that I see, how much more we can do for families that are in need of food. And just some of the things that I've experienced that have helped me to see how much more our society has been able to do to help those that are in need.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for the great work that you're doing down there, and to everyone down there, truly helping our community in so many different aspects.
Amen. It's a blessing.
Yes.
So much. Thank you.
And today we're specifically speaking about homelessness, and our first issue is an issue that I think affects all of us. Living here in the valley is our hot, extreme summers. We have beautiful winters, but our heats are extreme. And how Arizona's extreme heat affects the homeless, because I think that many of us complain because we have to go from the office to the car for something, and it's hot and we burn our hands, and as a woman I know you sit on the seat and it hurts and it's, oh my goodness. However, That's a very trivial issue to deal with versus the people who are living on the streets. And I think it's very easy to forget about the fact that no, it's not extreme cold, but in this heat, we see even a lot of heat-related deaths on trails and on hiking trails. How is it truly affecting our homeless population, and what is some of the biggest challenges that they face whenever it comes to our extreme heat here?
Well, first of all, there's not enough shelter space for our homeless population, so there are many homeless persons that are out in the community. Many persons may actually see a homeless person by their neighborhood, and this is a reality that our homeless population, they are citizens, they're free to be where they would want to be. And the difficulties our guests would face, these homeless persons, is that at night the temperatures stay very, very high. The lows may really touch the 80s, 84 to 88 degrees. So a person's body doesn't have the chance to cool down. So if someone's out living in the streets, whether it's a sidewalk, in a mountainside, or wherever they may, in a ravine, wherever they may be staying, their bodies never allow them to cool down and get to a core temperature that allows them to stabilize their body. And so when the morning comes, again, the hot temperature, they're already hot from the hot night.
Wow.
And then their bodies then over time become affected, where they become ill, they become sick, they may even die from the elements. It's something that is so important for us to even recognize. That's why we offer services to help our homeless guests, that the elements can be very stressful on the body.
It is, because that's something to consider, that part of a healthy regime for any adult, for any person, is to get 7 to 8 hours of restful sleep a night. And if their bodies don't have an opportunity to actually rest and to cool down, then that would eventually have a very big wear, probably on their physical body as well as their mental state.
Yes, and especially if they're mentally ill. You just touched on something that a lot of our guests do have some mental illnesses, and unfortunately there may or may not be medication they can take, but they compound their medicines, whether it may be drugs or alcohol, to try and fight their mental illness. And one thing that we really try and do is offer respite. We actually have our dining rooms that are open during the day right now to offer heat relief. And I'd say 80% of those persons in those dining rooms are asleep, actually catching up on their rest. And it's just amazing how many persons, our homeless persons, are with us sleeping during the daytime, because at night they're going to struggle with that heat again. And it is something that the mental illness compounded by the addictions that they may face, it's just something that makes for a very difficult situation for the homeless individuals that we're serving.
And in a lot of the homeless population, either they suffer with a mental illness or even some sort of addiction. And a lot of times, things that they could be addicted to probably cause dehydration in the body. And so does that get compounded with the fact that they're being dehydrated so much quicker with this heat, because you're losing sweat and electrolytes? Compound that with an addiction, and I'm sure that becomes a major problem.
Well, yes, especially alcohol, because alcohol, person will sweat and it tries to move through the body faster. And then drinking water, it's difficult. We try and have water available at all our sites for our guests, not just to drink at our dining rooms, but to take with them. And that's something that's very important. Having enough water. We don't just say, here's a water bottle. We allow our guests to take as many as 3 or 4 water bottles, because when they leave us in the afternoon, that's all they're going to have that we're aware of until the next day, the water that we can give them.
Yes, no, and that's something that are they water bottles? Do they do reusable water bottles? Is that something that's really an option right now, where they keep something and can refill it?
The problem with that is the sanitary concerns. As a food service, I look at the sanitary part of it, because persons do bring their water pitchers, and we'll put water in them, but we try and wash it first for them. But a lot of them don't want to let go of their containers, and it's hard to wash every container, so we actually are using plastic. We are recycling. We have recycling at all our locations, so we do recycle the plastic. We do serve water in pitchers during lunch, and they refill their own containers. They're allowed to, but it is something that when they're leaving us, we are allowing them to take the plastic water bottles, because it's easier for them to carry, just put in their bag, they can take it with them, and it makes it so much easier for our guests also. And we can somewhat even kind of freeze these, put these in ice, so when they're leaving with very cold water. They'll help them stay cool during the night.
No, absolutely. That's a great idea, because it would take a while for it to melt, and then they probably even put it on their body to cool down or to bring down their core temperature.
Yes.
And that's something I know that even me as an individual who is fortunate to not be homeless, and when I'm outside, whenever you try to do something, you almost become disoriented. You become exhausted in the heat, and it drains you mentally and physically. And so, is there resources available to them? Is there things available to the homeless here in this state that actually can help and reach out to that to relieve some of that intense heat and that exposure to it?
Yeah, what's great is that Maricopa County has on their website different respite stations throughout the Valley of the Sun here, where persons can go get help. If they're not by one of our dining rooms, there's different hydration sites.
Okay.
And in fact, the city opens their service centers. They know that there's persons, they may come into the libraries. And what's great is that the city of Phoenix, Maricopa County, many places, I mean, you go into many establishments, they kind of put on their no backpacks, you know, they're kind of trying to discourage. But at this time of the year when it's very hot, it'd be nice if places would recognize that, you know, there's a homeless person that's passing by. They may need to get a drink of water. You know, they may need to come in. So that's how a lot of our business community can step forward, is allowing these persons to come in, use the restroom, drink water, cool down before they continue on their journey. And being homeless, a lot of our guests don't have a place to go. They walk the streets, or they find a place to be at. At our dining rooms, there's a place where they can be at during the day, but not all of the homeless persons go to our dining rooms. There's probably close to 2,000 homeless persons outside of the persons we're serving that, just because of their mental illness, are uncomfortable going to a large area where there's a lot of persons. They're more comfortable on their own, just staying away from everybody. They stay to themselves, and they feel more comfortable staying to themselves.
And one thing that, in my small exposure to the homeless community and some of their needs, is self-dignity is a very big issue. And hygiene is something that is probably affected greatly with this heat, the sweating, the not having clothes to change into, not having showers. How does that affect them, and what are things that people can do to help with that?
You know, one of the things that persons can do is recognize this. If they see it, they can direct them, and it takes a bus to get to our main campus on 4th Avenue and Watkins. We actually have showers and a change of clothing for our homeless guests there. We have it at our Sunny Slope dining room. We actually have showers there Monday through Friday, and we don't have as much clothing, but they can take a shower and freshen up. And so we try and offer these services to help persons cool down at our dining locations. And that's one thing that we've been able to do. There's other agencies that try and do showers. Andre House does showers 6 days a week when they're open. They have 3 showers. So it's nice to see other agencies. And I know that Positive Crystal Mesa has a shower. They allow persons to shower as they see that the person needs that help. They actually get a shower truck in there every week. So persons can shower if they want to in some of these other areas. But again, there's a large segment of our homeless population that, because of their mental illness, I know of some of our individuals that don't want to take a shower. That's where they are. And we really, the one way we encourage them to take showers, say, okay, if you want to come in with us, you got to take a shower. We'll get them to a shower, and then get them a change of clothing.
Do a little bargaining with them and get them in there.
You know, because we love, like I said, their dignity and respect. We still want to serve them, but we also want them to know that we're trying to help them.
Yes.
And even though they may not recognize it, is something that we're trying to work with them.
No, absolutely. And I know that that's such an important piece of it, because I know that even just us going out for the day, you just feel hot and you feel dirty and you just want to go in and take a shower. And I'm sure that eventually that wears on them, and it eats away at their own dignity and their ability to feel worth it.
Amen.
So that is beautiful. The last thing, one thing I know that I've done, and I know that kind of has been a topic of conversation, is carrying around bags in your car with a few items. So if you see a homeless person, you're not comfortable giving them money or something, you can give something. From someone who works with the homeless population. You're on the front lines every day. What are a few things that if people on their own time, they wanted to put together a little bag at home that you would suggest? What are some of the biggest needs that you see?
Well, right now, in addition to the water, and a lot of times we don't realize it's not just one bottle, but they may need multiple bottles of water, but also the sunscreen. If you have any hats at home that you're not using, you want to give them out. You know, we always ask for volunteers. If you have any hats, they'll bring them. And they'll actually hand them out to our guests. And we also are looking at the basic hygiene items. So you want to put toothpaste and a toothbrush in there. Deodorant is something that our guests appreciate, because a lot of our guests recognize they don't want to be out there, but if they have deodorant, it helps them a little bit.
It does.
If you get a shirt, you even get a large, extra large shirt, at least you know you're giving a person a clean shirt in that bag. If you can make it work, that's great, because that is one thing that is so important, and you touched on it, and the dignity and respect that we can bring to the individual, no matter where they are in their lives. How can we make them feel better about themselves and not worse after we've had an encounter with them?
Yes.
One of the things that we've also done is we'll get gift cards. If you want to, instead of giving a person money, there's a place around where you live, one of the fast food places, get a $5 gift card that you can give to that person. And that way they can go and have a meal.
Yes, and you know that it will go to feed them.
And what's good is, you know, they're not getting change back, because they get to keep using the gift card till it's used. And so they'll use that gift card in the location that you would, you know, whether it would be any of the fast food locations.
Yes. That is wonderful. Very good. Well, thank you so much, Jerry, for joining us for this first segment. We have another segment coming up here, but if you have any questions, the information's been displayed at the bottom of the screen. Please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this short break.
If it's that bad, why doesn't she just leave? This is the wrong question. Many victims are terrified for themselves and their children. Attempted strangulation, smothering, and suffocation can occur later in abusive and violent relationships. So next time, before you ask, why doesn't she just leave? Instead, ask this question: why is anyone allowed to terrorize their family? It's time to start asking the right questions.
Hello and welcome back to Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, Vanessa Rose. Thank you so much for staying with us. If you just happen to be tuning in, today we are joined by Jerry Castro, and he is the food service manager at St. Vincent DePaul here in our great city of Phoenix. Thank you so much for staying with us.
Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to have you. We were just speaking a little bit about some of the needs of the homeless community and the things that they're truly facing, that us that are so fortunate to have a home and a place to live and a television or a computer to watch this, we don't realize a lot of what these people are going through in this 100+ degree weather, and even up to 120. We've broken some records this year. Truly just very hot. And so now we're going to speak about families and individuals living through summer months. And touching on this, one thing that I know is of great concern is a lot of children in inner city neighborhoods, whether they go to a charter school or to a school, they do get fed a meal during the day, or they get water, or they get access to a cool shelter. Or during these summer months, whenever families have children and they don't have anywhere to go during the day, what are some of the things that they're facing right now?
Well, a lot of the families, even just with unable to afford childcare, children are staying at home, and they may or may not have a healthy meal at home. But there's a lot of schools, and you can look on the local school websites, even the 211 area number, to find schools that are open and they provide a lunch meal for children. And what's great is that they are trying to meet this challenge to provide some meals. Unfortunately, it's not every school, so it may be a school that may be far from a home, but that is some of the things that we see that's available for these children that are out of school. Parents may be working, and there's other programs I know that assist. There's Boys and Girls Clubs, YMCA. There's places that parents can check, and if they can qualify through eligibility, they may be able to bring their children there at a very minimal cost. And I know that that's very helpful, because then they're being cared for, and it's in a program that's sponsored by the YMCA, by the Boys and Girls Club. Some of these community organizations that actually are set up to help children when parents are working. And so that's really nice. And if there's a need for food, again, through the same 211 emergency number, they can get access to local volunteers where they can find food resources in their community so that they'll have access to additional food through food boxes through St. Vincent de Paul, food assistance through St. Mary's in the West Valley or United Food Bank or Desert Mission here in Maricopa County. There's resources out there for our families, additional resources, and they just need to call and find out what's available in their neighborhoods.
One thing you mentioned is 211. I'm familiar with that, but for people that aren't familiar with that, from any phone, you can call 211, correct? And what is some of the resources that are available on there? So if maybe someone even has a family member who's hurting or is in need, they can share this information.
Yeah, it's a statewide number, and it's actually operated 8 hours a day. Because of funding, they're not even open 24 hours now. It's from 8 till about 5 p.m. in the evening, but they call and they can say, you know, we're in need of food, can you direct me? And they get their address information. So it's just 3 numbers, 211, and they're directed to the resources in their neighborhood, where there's a food pantry, where there might be or they can call a local church, or they can call a St. Vincent de Paul church group to hopefully get food to their home. And being that there's a lot of parents that don't have transportation, what's great through St. Vincent de Paul, we have volunteers that actually do visits. We'll bring the food to them at their home. And also there's additional help available through, which is great, because some parents get behind with the high electric bills. They might start getting behind on their rent or utilities. And a lot of our wonderful volunteers for St. Vincent de Paul actually help provide that type of assistance, rent, utility aid. They may not be able to cover the whole bill, but maybe help cover a little bit of it. They allow them to keep their power on, keep the water on, you know, pay the rent or mortgage. And so I know at St. Vincent de Paul, we've probably done about $5 million in direct aid to families in need just this past year. And the need is ever growing. I mean, there's a great need. And so that's where we just thank God for the resources and pray that we can continue to serve our community, especially our children, families. And
also the elderly, that's something to consider. If they're not homeless, they have a shelter, they have a place to live, but a lot of them are on a fixed income. How do they approach the issue? Because a lot of things people probably don't even realize is air conditioning. If you're living in a home here, it's much like a car and there's no air conditioning, it's going to become an oven and it's going to become extremely hot. So what are some of the issues facing even the working poor and the people that do have shelter, but in these summer months?
Well, that's where being a good neighbor is very helpful. If you know a neighbor that you know that's single parent, or it could be an elderly person, and you just go over and do a wellness check, see how they're doing. And they may not know about these resources, but now you know the 211 number, you can ask them, may I call to get some help for you? Or you may be able to assist them yourselves personally, and that's what's so important, is that a lot of our elderly being on a fixed income don't want to lower the temperature in their house, because then their payment goes higher for their utility bill, and then they can't afford to keep the electricity on. They're making choices between food or staying cool. But that's what's great, because we do have some resources out there in the community. There's community action networks throughout the valley. There's a City of Phoenix has their service centers. Maricopa County has their service sites where an elderly person, Foundation for Senior Living, you can direct them to some of these agencies to see what more they can do to help this person. Because that's something that's very important, is doing a wellness check on someone that's elderly, someone you know that may need help, and direct them to those resources.
That's something, so being aware then of your neighbors, of the people around you, and if someone lives alone, go in and check on them or take time to see them. Yeah, that's something, it seems like such a small feat, but it really, it can truly make a difference.
Yes.
Have you noticed working with these people, is there a change of morale, a change of feeling, just seeing that people are actually willing to help them and that they want to help them? Do you notice, are they receptive to that?
Oh, most definitely. I still volunteer at my parish conference, and we do home visits. And now when we visit families, we know it's not just going to be to go drop off food, and we're actually there visiting, sometimes half hour with the elderly lady that just likes to talk, so we sit with her and visit with her. So my wife's my visit team partner, and we'll sit with our families, and what the beautiful thing is that we always pray with our families after our visit. And so now where our families and our guests are are leading the prayer, and that's a beautiful thing when they join in the prayer. It's not just us, it's us praying together. The families that we're visiting, you see that they feel good. A lot of them are starting to go to their churches. I tell persons, even though I belong to the Catholic Church, I tell, hey, whatever your church of faith is, go to your church. There was this one young man that said, yeah, I haven't gone to church. I said, well, it was a Christian church. And I said, well, go talk to your pastor. You haven't been there, but go talk to him, because he was looking for a job. And on the next visit, he called and he brought food, and he said, thank you, because he actually started working at the church as a janitor, and the pastor had helped him, and he just wanted to thank us. We brought food, but he said, I really wanted to call you. I'm glad you came, because I just want to say thank you for directing me back. So he's going back to church with his family. And you see so many of these families that truly start having, you build their confidence, but they start getting their faith back also. Because when someone's without food and their children are needing food, it's hard to say, Lord, where are we going to get our next meal from? And just thank God for all the different food banks, agencies, for our St. Vincent de Paul volunteers. I know a lot of our wonderful churches have food pantries at their churches, which is great. So it's nice to know that we can direct them. I direct our families not just for a weekend, but I know there's a church over here, Chicanos por la Causa has food on this day. You go over here, and I'll direct them to other services. We have right there on 9th Avenue, Buchanan, we also have our interfaith ministry, and I direct families there also. I'll see some of our families are getting food for the month.
Wow.
And so it's great to know other resources. So not just one resource, but multiple resources where you can direct the family, because a food box may last 4-5 meals for a family of 4. And I'll direct our families where to get more food, where to get additional help, because we know that working together as a community, in our faith-based community, there's a lot of resources where our families can get the help they need.
It is, and so it sounds, Jerry, something that I think all of us, is regardless of what it is you can do, whether it's talk to someone, encourage someone, give someone a bottle of water, smile at them, volunteer. It's a community effort, and coming together and loving these people, and realizing that even though you see someone on the street and you may have your own preconceived notions, they're still a human. And I know that a lot of times I've had people on before that have had shared stories, and I'm sure that you have many, and I'll have to have you back another time to share those, but where they've truly been in these homeless shelters, and some of these people truly hit a strike of bad luck, and something just happened, and they went from having a home and a car and a family, and now all of a sudden they're on the street.
Yes.
And so it's truly understanding that they're people, and that they need they need a little bit of encouragement, and that's, your story is so wonderful because of that.
Just anybody that wants to volunteer, just be there to love them, to let them know that they're loved so much that God somehow put you there to help this person.
Yes.
And it truly is God that allows us to allow His work to come to life in the people we're serving.
Absolutely. Well, Jerry, thank you so much. I know that the website for St. Vincent de Paul has been put at the bottom of the screen. For any of our viewers that have any questions, I know there's also information there. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact them. And I think the most important thing, and from everything that you said, is just truly remember that we were all put on this earth, and we're all in it together.
Amen.
We're all here. And so in these hot summer months here in Arizona, reach out and help someone if you see someone in need. Just take that time to be encouraged, to know that even if it's the smallest thing, that you really can make a difference in someone's life, and it takes one person at a time. So thank you so much, Jerry.
Thank
it's a
you.
pleasure to have you.
God bless you. Thank
God bless
you
you.
so much.
And we look forward to seeing you next time here on Joy in Our Town.
This program has been sponsored by the Trinity Broadcasting Network and is made possible by your telethon dollars. Your continual support can keep Joy in Our Town coming to your home every week. Write to Joy in Our Town, Post Office Box A, Santa Ana, California, 92711.